morning, people. I hope that this video finds you well. Today I'm going to talk about a little subject that many of you might not understand. And that's because many of the people who make these YouTube videos or communicate don't have the same background as I have, and not in the same situation that I am in. And so I'm going to say a couple of things, and I hope that you all understand my little story. And what I'm going to talk about here is a life story. We all have life stories, don't we? All of us. We all have stories on life, and I'd really love to hear your stories. Some people write to me, and some of the followers write to me and tell me their stories, and I really like these human stories about people, places, and what you go through. And I am going to tell you a story. It's not a fictional story, it's a true story about something that I'm going through right now. China is wealthier than the United States. The people are doing far better than anybody in the United States. And when you live here and build a life for yourself here, you realize that. And way back when I was traveling back and forth, setting up factories inside of China, I became very, very enamored with China and met a gal, and I got married. And in China, if you want to marry somebody, you show your respect to that family. Often by buying a house for them.
我复仇许罪鸣笛，怎叹残月照剑影，染风雪吹满衣，饮一腔诗意。我徒手摘星一串，摇尽清欢渡人间，托红颜说思念，偶得一两天。念君姓名，千百遍热忱，今年再重逢又不敢相认。醉叹世人间起伏，成真，眼底荒太深，直到是风雪也归人。最一世十里春风，人年桃花红，愿流言痴真，吹不散两人醉往事，心上伤愁许醉鸣笛，怎叹残月照剑影，染风雪吹满衣，饮一腔诗意。我徒手摘星一串，摇尽清欢渡人间，托红颜说思念，偶得一两天。念君姓名，千百遍热忱，今年再 归人，最一世是你春风人，年桃花红，任牛羊驰骋，吹不散两人醉往事心上伤
So, at the time when I was pitching woo, I took all my savings, and it wasn't very much, and I bought a house in Shenzhen for my then-to-be wife. And a lot of things happened, but my retirement from Majestic happened, and all kinds of things happened. The house was there. Meanwhile, as time moves on, you tack on 20 years onto a house you bought in an area that's growing up, and it grows in value. And when I bought the house, nobody wanted the house, actually. It was one of the few houses that I could afford. And the reason was because it was on 4th Street. I was in the building 4 on 4th Street on the 4th floor, room 404, apartment 404. In Chinese, 4 is si, which is also the word for death, si. So it was considered bad luck. So I was able to get it relatively cheaply. And it still broke my bank. I didn't have much because of life and a divorce and long series of layoffs. But I did manage to save up some money, and that money went towards buying that house. And over time, this little house that I had, and when I bought it, it was in a little town next to Shenzhen Center, because Shenzhen itself was a little town. And over time, Shenzhen grew and grew and grew, and these nearby towns were absorbed by Shenzhen, and these towns became part of Shenzhen. And so the little house was in Nanshan became part of Shenzhen, and Nanshan became sort of the upper level section of Shenzhen, that and Futian. And the house kept on going up in value, and then they started putting subways in underneath, and they put a subway station under my house, under my apartment complex right there, and my value of my house just went up like crazy. It was absolutely astounding. And because of this, I ended up having a house on paper that was worth a lot of money. Not that I saw a lot of money all the time, but on paper I look rich. Now the thing is, when I buy this house, I bought this house for my wife, so it's a Chinese house in a Chinese woman's name. It's not in my name. In fact, nothing is in my name. I find that my life is simpler when nothing is in my name. I just give my money to my wife, and she gives me a little bit to stipend to live off, and she takes care of all the bills and all the stuff. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about life. So yeah, that's a little life story, but that's been replicated all over the world and very common in the United States. You buy a house in New York, and suddenly your house is worth millions. You buy a house over in Florida back in the 70s, and now, it's just multi millions. Same thing happens in China. And my wife's family are from Wenzhou. Wenzhou is the Santa Barbara of China. They're very business oriented. They like to flaunt their wealth and everything. And my wife, she's from that culture. It's a subculture within China. And so for me, I kind of took it a gas because I didn't know anybody who had Lamborghinis and Ferraris, Bentleys. I didn't know anybody until I got married into the family. And I'm a Weigerin. I'm a poor Weigerin. I'm not rich. And, in my fam, in that culture, if you don't own a factory, you ain't shit. You're nothing. Okay? And so they gave me respect, but, they didn't respect me. They gave me face, but no respect. In order to be on the good side of this familia complex, you participate. And my wife's father wanted to set up a business, and everybody, of course, pitched in. And I was no exception. And so we took out a mortgage on our house. Now, the house is paid for, and the house is worth $9 million. I only paid like a little bit. Suddenly, it's $9 million. So we took out a second mortgage, or a mortgage on the house, and gave the money to him for his business on the promise that the business is a sure thing, and la da 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 da. And he then paid our interest. So for us, it didn't matter. Our house still increased in value. We're paying the interest is being paid, and it's all transparent. Okay. Then all of a sudden, now talk about the life story. Sounds like I'm really rich on paper. I'm still just getting by. My wife, we live comfortably, but we're not rich at all. We don't own a car. I just walk, and we eat good, healthy foods, and aren't too stressed about anything except for having a little 2-year-old. But so on paper, there's all this transactional stuff going on, and since we gave so much to this, our face is really big. So that helps, being a Weigerin and giving him money. And it turns out that we weren't the only one he asked money for. He asked money from about 30 some other people. And then he says, "I'm sorry, I need more money. I need all of you to pitch in and give me $4 million, $5 million. And everybody says, "Stop. We gave you money. If you would have just taken the money we gave you and put it in a bank and lived off the interests, you would be living a wealthy life. So how can you have a business that you just took $200 million and you have nothing to show for it? You don't have an office, you don't have a cart, you don't have a car, you don't have a record of employees. What's going on?" And this caused a big seismic shakedown in the entire extended family. And it should. And some of my uncles, or my wife's uncles, my uncles-in-laws, they're all businessmen. They're saying, we want to audit, we're going to go over to your factory, we're going to go over to your business enterprise in Shenxi, we're going to go over there, and we're going to find out what's going on, we're going to try to help you get it straight. And they said, no, 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 whatever you do, don't go there. And that set up alarm bells. So not only was this large sum of money going towards this some enterprise, but there was no evidence that anything was going on. There's no office, there's no employees, there's no history, there's no records, there's nothing. So where did all this money go? That's the big question. Some of the people suspect that he was taking it and trying to play the futures game because he once won some money, was successful in stock market at some point in time. Others are saying that perhaps he has partners that have cheated him. I don't know any of that, but I know a Ponzi scheme when I see a Ponzi scheme. I also know businessmen. Businessmen do not go about and get constant floods of calls asking to borrow money, and then you're lending money to them. And a lot of times it's never being paid back. So it looks like this relative of mine was taking these monies, pretending to operate some kind of business, and instead of using that for lifestyle enhancements to maintain face and pretending to be somebody with a lot of money. And now he's called out on it. And my in-laws are freaking out. They are just freaking out. And so my relatives, my mother-in-law, wants us to sell the house in Shenzhen so they don't have to pay any interest on it, and then give the proceeds of the house to them so that they can fix their business. From my point of view, this is what it looked like. It looked like my sole investment, my sole property, is going to be sold for somebody else's black hole. And we just lost all of our equity, all of our principal, all that, and plus all the savings that they were holding for us. We lost it all. Of course, I'm pretty upset about that. And this is a side of China that maybe you don't want to hear because it's so unlike that in the United States. In the United States, everybody's on their own and nobody would do such a stupid ass thing. But this is China and it's a different culture. And we're part of an extended family. Fact is, there was a solution. All the other family members, all the extended family members, the uncles, the aunties, the nephews, the kids, everybody got together and had a meeting. And they says, we don't know what the hell's going on. We don't know what's going on. We want to help him. We like him very much. But a black hole is a black hole. He's either spending it on alcohol, spending it on girls. He's doing something with it. With that kind of money, you can't end up with zero unless it's enormously mismanaged. I said, even if he used a fraction of that money to set up a little restaurant, he would still be having income coming in. He says, that's an enormous amount of money. 200, almost 300,000 or $300 million. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. And so the businessman, and I'm arguing too, when you have that kind of resource capital and you come out with zero, there is a major problem. And so everybody decided to pitch in and pay these big debts. And it turns out that myself and my wife, my little family, gave one of the biggest amounts to him. So they pitched in, and they're going to pay the value of the house back to us so that they can reduce the hemorrhaging outlay that's now on our shoulders because we still have to pay the mortgage that we took out for him. And it's a lot. But everybody in this community had to give up $1 million to fill up that black hole that he generated. So of the value of my house, the 9 million, I get 8 million back. 1 million give to him for free to take care of that. People, the kind of money I make is very little. It literally take over 100 years of 100% of all I take in every single month. It would take, if everything I ever make every month is put into a bucket, it would take over 100 years to make $1 million. That's a lot of money that I just gave to him. But it's all on paper, you know what I mean? I've never physically held this kind of money. It's just all on paper. So you have to look upon it as this $1 million is the price to bail out. This is the price you have to pay to delatch. This is the price you have to pay to get out of this Ponzi scheme. And so, yeah, okay, I accept that. I don't like it. I accept that. Now, of course, the parents, the father and the mother, are completely, they're not aware that there was this big family meeting going on. They were unaware. They had no idea what's going on. And mother's still freaking out, wants us to do something and all kinds of stuff. But the warning signs has always been there. Somebody asks for you a lot of money, even if it's family, even if it's in China, you have to see where it's being, you have to understand, is this person qualified to have the money? How are they using this money? What's the payback period of time? What's the product that they're doing? What's the situation? Are they having trouble in the business? It's a community of businessmen, business families, that everybody, if you're in trouble in a business, somebody can come on over and help you with sales, can help you with marketing, can help you with manufacturing. Doesn't matter what it is. The resource is there for free, but he wasn't asking for anything because he didn't have anything. We don't know what he did. Supposedly he was trying to get involved in coal for coal power plants. Who knows what the hell he was trying to do? And so yeah, I guess I'm a millionaire on paper. Looks like I'm going to be paying this massive mortgage every month for the 1 million that remains on this mortgage, second mortgage on my house. And it's going to affect my quality of life again. And I'm going to smile and I'm going to take it and I'm going to continue my life as if nothing has happened. All this is going on, transpiring in China, in Chinese, with Chinese people. The United States government has no understanding about anything going on here because it shouldn't. Doesn't involve any American citizens, doesn't involve any American financial transactions or anything. But this is the kind of things you kind of marry into if you're an expat. You end up in the different situations with other people, whether it's in France or whether it's in Finland or whether it's in Yugoslavia or Bosnia. You kind of take on some of the cultural ramifications, and for me, I took on this cultural ramification. So on paper, I look very, very wealthy. In reality, I'm I'm just a guy. I eat well. I play with my kid. I make videos, type up my articles. I have a couple of side businesses that bring in little bits of money. Okay, which is another thing I have to mention. Yet again, please, Hollywood is Hollywood. It's a fiction. The real world is something totally different. Don't ever create an affirmation prayer campaign based upon a Hollywood fiction. You're going to regret it. Just don't do that. And there's a lot of takeaways from this little story. In the Wenzhou culture, you're judged in your success in business. And for my father-in-law, his face, his image is completely destroyed because he failed in business. My association with it, being able to lend so much, is also considered to be a positive simply because I did so. And I'm a Uyghur, I'm a non-Chinese, I'm an outsider who did this and took this action. On a fundamental point of view, it doesn't really change my day-to-day life, with the exception of by me now taking on the mortgage payments that the father insisted upon. My take-home income per month is reduced approximately 40% because the rest is going into this massive principal bank loan. So, and that is part of how this works. This is part of this kind of society, this societal story. This is how it works. Are there good and bad things about it? Well, yeah, but I would imagine that were I to have married somebody in India, it might have been just as interesting, maybe in a different way, but you marry into various cultures and you accept those. In reality, looking at the big picture, the American culture is just of a singular individual. And it's very mass-produced culture based upon pop culture. You don't have any, there's no deep American cultural roots, unless you consider a diner with coffee as a deep American cultural root. You leave America as only 250 years old, and you go to China, which is 5,000 years old, with deep, rich cultures and traditions. Yeah, it's from trivial to deep. The loss of money, whether it's on paper or physical, is always going to sting. And what stings the most is that I had no control in this loss, other than the fact that that I gave my wife the go ahead to lend this money. I did not participate in the business. I offered to help, and it was promptly declined, as did other people who lent the money. They all offered to help on a business. When somebody says that you need to borrow some money for a business and you believe them, you owe it to yourself to check on and see how that business is being run. Perhaps there is something that you can do to make it happen. The more people who contribute, the more stories and knowledge they have. When you have a family of some 60-some people, of some 60-some seasoned businessmen in finance and marketing and engineering, all these seasoned businessmen, and willing to give money and willing to help you, support you in a business, and you decline that, you have to have a pretty damn good reason for declining that. And the overall, like I said, the overall belief is that the money was mismanaged. That's putting it nicely. Squandered, putting it as the average opinion, or intentionally lost because the father, the person, has a illness like akin to gambling or drug addiction or something, just causes a massive loss of money. Again, you have 250 million and then you have zero to show for it. Something's up. Something is absolutely up. It's a lot of money to have nothing to show for it. In life, we'll get these things. I can't tell you how many times I've been cheated or tried to be cheated, and the people who cheat you, who run these various scams on you, as they get older, they get better because they have experiences of other scams that they ran that didn't work or did work. And they get better and better, and it's really hard to pick and choose. As a result, some of the business opportunities that came my way, I put down some hard and fast rules. One of them is I need to see the people face to face. I need to talk with them. I need to have a meal with them. Anybody who wants to talk about a business plan or wants to talk to me about money, I need to see them face to face, sitting at a table with me where I'm talking with them for a good multiple hours. That's the first requirement. Second requirement, any documents that we sign as part of a business. And this is long-standing. I've had these rules now for 10 years. These rules are having to do with my business, doesn't have to do with my family lending money. And these rules are, like I said, hard and fast. So anybody comes to me, they call me, they get on the internet and they say, I got this great plan and whatever. I say, great, you come on over here. We're going to sit in front of the dinner and talk face to face. The second thing I do, especially in multi or international relations, is I say, look, okay, great. I'm going to fly on over to the Chinese embassy in your area, and we are going to sign documents right there. They have a room. They do. They have a room that we can say, I want to use your conference room inside your embassy facility to sign documents. And I say, you come in. Chinese scans them, identifies them. It's all in a secure environment, and they identify who the hell these people are and their criminal past, if there are any, is any. It's very easy to make fake documents on the internet, very easy to make all kinds of stories. The third rule is everything is up and up without even a hint of doing something to get around some kind of law or anything. You don't. In a real business, you obey whatever law or rules there are. And somebody says, well, I'm not going to do it this way. I want to do it that way to get around this kind of law or whatever. Then it's off the table. I don't do business like that. businesses, and the fourth rule is businesses are always done, for me, because I'm a resident of China, it's always done to Chinese law. We obey Chinese law. If I was doing a business in America, I would be obeying American law. You always do business at the law. There's a reason for it. It's not just because it's the law. It protects you and protects the other people. You obey the law. And so, yeah, and so this entire event sequence has really, I've learned a whole bunch from it. Hopefully, I'll be able to dig myself out of this massive debt that I have inadvertently walked into. But yeah, this is my story. This is one of the many, many stories. We all have interesting stories, right? This is mine. Maybe you find it interesting. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just hear Metallicman rambling. Ramble. I don't know. Maybe you think that I'm some super kind of rich guy talking about whatever. I'm not. I'm just an average guy like you guys, okay? Just ended up having a house, equity on a house, that used the equity. Some other relative needed it to set up some kind of business. It's just it's an easy slide into a situational event. And that's my story. Good or bad, right or wrong, that's it. You all, and I'm talking to all of you, everybody who's watching this, has stories. Stories about how your grandparents and your parents and uncles and aunts, some of the adventures they had, things that went good or bad. Stories of strife and stress between you and your spouse. Stories about how you moved from point A to point B and the changes that you went through. You all have stories, and I find these stories fascinating. Normally, I don't write about my stories that much, just in the autobiography about Majestic, because that's a unique event that I have. I really don't think too many people, well, I know not too many people. Remember, people who was in my program could be counted in one hand, apparently. So yeah, a totally unique situation. But it's your stories. It's your stories that are fascinating, and I hope that you enjoyed my little story. And that's what I have to say about that. Culturally, compared to the United States, the story I just told you, I don't think it could be duplicated, because Americans don't easily lend money to relatives. I just gave away $1 million. 3 years ago, I asked to borrow $20,000 from my brother. He says no. He wanted all kinds of proof and what it was going to be used for and how it was going to be used and all kinds of stuff. So I'll pay you back in a month. I borrowed it from somebody here in China, and I paid it back in 3 weeks. It's for a bridge loan on a project. But we all have stories, and that's that. In any event, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this little video. It's not a video of somebody who's teaching in China as an ESL teacher, and they're all oohing and eyeing because they're in their 20s and think this is great. It's not a story of global geopolitics from an American point of view or anything like that. This is just, this is a story about life. And I'm sure it could be duplicated in any of your households. The amounts may be different, The players may be different. The interactions between the family members might be different. But this kind of struggle, life struggle, is typical. I would like to hear your stories, because I bet you all got some great ones. And at that, guys, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. Whatever kind of event and stories that you have in your lives, it's the life experience that builds up your character and refreshes your soul. And thus, how you handle life is a reflection of your very being. Don't let the trials of life get you down. And with that, I'm going to say my basics. My basics. Which is, guys, be part of a community, do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember, I